Hey everyone, Jordan Norell here, back to making my daily videos about circumcision, activism, trauma healing, foreskin regeneration, etc. And today, I'd like to talk about something I've been noticing lately with some of the people I've been talking to circumcision healing about, which is a certain resistance to wanting to heal circumcision trauma that I've had in myself before as well, and I'm getting curious about and curious how to get around it, because I think circumcision healing is really important, both on the physical side and the emotional side. And I was reading or listening to an audiobook, I should say, by Bessel van der Kolk, who is sort of one of the leading figures in trauma, and his classic book, The Body Keeps the Score. And at the beginning he talks about a little bit about survivor's guilt, which is something that war veterans sometimes feel because they have survived the war, and they have to live with the fact that they've seen these horrific things happen to their friends, the people who were they were so close with and bonded so closely with over that war experience. And in this life or death situation, they lived and their comrades died. And some war veterans are quite frequently very opposed to actually healing their trauma, because they feel like they are abandoning their comrades who are passed on and who have died these horrible deaths. And so they keep on re-experiencing the trauma over and over, and because they don't want to let that go. And so I think there may be, I think I've experienced some similar things around circumcision guilt, or like foreskin survivors, foreskin guilt. I don't know, I have to come up with a good term for it, but it's we have lost our foreskin. Our foreskin has died. This beautiful, wonderful part of us that's the most intimate thing that we have, the most intimate part of the penis, the most sensitive part of the penis. Many men describe it as the only true, intimate, purely sexual part of the body, more profoundly in an indescribable way than any other part of the penis or the lips or anything. It's just it's a really profound loss, and a lot of men understand this and are really, really, really upset about it, and unwilling to go through any kind of healing process that might mean letting that go, that might mean abandoning their foreskin, that might mean trying to move on or let go. And so I first want to say that's totally a legitimate feeling, is just as guilt for not wanting to let go of a comrade is it comes from a legitimate source. It's not wanting to abandon this person who you really care about. And in wartime experience, that's a totally legitimate thing. You don't want to abandon your teammates. But the problem is this response becomes stuck, and even when it doesn't make sense anymore, even when you've learned everything you can about the foreskin, and you're trying to become an effective activist, and you really, really have come to value the foreskin and all these things that sort of foreskin survivor's guilt was based on, but you can't let go of the trauma anymore because it's become so ingrained that you have to keep on looking at more information, you have to keep on feeling upset, you have to keep on repeating this trauma inside your own body, inside your own experience, because if you don't keep on feeling those feelings, then what's going to happen? You might just not even care about it anymore. You might let it go, and nothing might ever change. At least that's how I felt. Again, I'm really speaking largely from personal experience, and as well as from a few men I've talked to seem to have some kind of similar patterns going on. So, first of all, yeah, that's totally legitimate. It comes from a legitimate place. And second, I don't ever want to say just let that go, or just like stop stop feeling those feelings. Just stop having guilt. Just stop feeling like you shouldn't heal, and just heal. That's one of the worst things I could possibly say, and never listen to anyone who says that to you. Don't internalize that. Don't feel like you should just be able to let go, because it's real trauma. There's real grief and a process associated with that, and it takes time, and it can take some serious psychological work, and often professional help can be really helpful for that. Or I'm trying to develop more material so that men will be able to do it on their own as well for free, if they want to, because right now there isn't a lot of that. You can find stuff around trauma generally, but not specifically geared towards circumcision grief and circumcision trauma. So it's not about just letting that guilt go, or that feeling like you need to stay in trauma go. It's actually sort of deeper than that. It's really more about getting in touch with why you want that. Is it time? Have you sort of gone through the process of learning about circumcision, and you feel like you're ready to sort of start to move on, and not move on necessarily, but move on from the trauma of it, to coming from a place where you're more integrated and more psychologically have processed some of that trauma and grief, so that you can actually be more effective. And so again, for me, that was really the main reason why this became so important, was because I realized I wanted to do some things in my life. I wanted to, at some point, perhaps be more effective as an activist. And I wasn't an activist at all, or able to do anything. I wasn't able to talk about it. And so I realized I needed healing to be the person that I wanted to be, and to empower myself. And so from that motivation, I realized that I needed to find a way through this. And so that's why I took a trauma class at my school and used the tools in that to help heal myself. So finally, what are those tools? There's a lot of tools. My last video on emotional integration, circumcision trauma exercise, was one thing that I used. I'm designing many more based on stuff that I used that were just general trauma exercises that I'm going to make more specific for circumcision trauma. Writing about it, talking about it, especially in specific ways, which I'll get into. Basically feeling those feelings, feeling that grief. The only way out is through and into your own pain. Trauma works by not facing it. And so just as in combat in survivor's guilt, you have to really grieve that person you've lost in order to move on with your life and be effective in your life. If you want to move on, be a more effective activist, or just move on with your life in some way, and sort of get through the circumcision trauma, so that you're not gonna stop caring about your foreskin, or stop feeling any of the things you feel, is in terms of how you feel about it and what you think about it, but the extreme pain that kind of goes with that understanding of the issue, doesn't have to be there for you to know what you know. And so through processing that grief, through doing different exercises and feeling the feelings, and gradually retraining your brain so you're not constantly in this fight or flight, thinking that you need to fight to protect yourself from circumcision or to try to escape somehow, because that's not really ultimately useful in activism or in a lot of things. If you're able to think more reasonably, strategically, and figure out the most effective strategy forward, it can take a lot of time, a lot of research, a lot of making connections with different activists and networking, and developing over many years materials like Brendan Murata's film. Brendan's an incredibly integrated, psychologically healthy person, and his film is one of the best things I think the best single thing I've ever seen in this field of intactivism. So that goes to show that by doing this work and everything I've done, if you like any of the stuff I've done, it's all because I did this work myself. And so, yeah, again, if you guys ever want to reach out and work with me personally, my email is jordanarel, jordanarel@hotmail.com. First consultations are always free and can talk with you, see if you'd like to work with me, or if I can direct you to someone else who can, or whatever I can do for you. Otherwise, I would just love to chat with people, so drop me a line. Any questions or comments, leave them below. Thank you for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you again tomorrow.